This lesson will cover Hebrew pronominal suffixes. So in the previous section, we talked about independent pronouns, which are subjective. They perform the function of the subject of the sentence. These pronouns are going to be either objective or possessive. And in Hebrew, these kind of pronouns, objective and possessive, appear as suffixes. And so pronominal suffixes can appear on nouns, in which case they would be possessive, as in his book. They can also appear on prepositions, in which case they will be objective, okay, meaning they would be like this word them, right? Them or him or her, us, those types of pronouns. They can also appear on definite direct object markers, okay? And they would also be objective if they appear on a direct object marker. They can appear on verbs as well. They do appear on verbs frequently in the scriptures, but we're not to that point yet in your Hebrew learning, so we're not going to show you in this chapter how they appear on verbs, but you will see them later in the course. All right, just a quick review of English grammar. If you're either a native speaker or not a native speaker of English, it might help you to quickly think through in your mind, what do we mean when we say possessive and objective pronouns? Okay, so we have basically 6 possible options in each of those, and even a few options in this third person singular block. But think quickly. If you need to pause and think for yourself before I reveal these, that might be a helpful exercise for you, but I just want to go through them quickly. So the first person singular is my. Second person singular would be your. Third person singular would be 3 options really: his, her, or its. Okay, and then going up to first person plural, right? That would be our. Second person plural, again, your. Second person doesn't make a big difference. Third person would be their. Okay, and then going over to the objective side, first person singular. Think of if you were going to make yourself the object of something, it would be me. All right, second person singular, you. Third person singular, him, her, or it. First person plural would now be we. I'm sorry, us. For the objective, we would be subjective. Second person plural is also you. And then third person plural would be them. So yeah, those are the possessive and objective pronouns that we'll be working with in English. Now, how are those communicated in Hebrew? Here we have the Hebrew pronominal suffixes. So these can be either objective or possessive. And we have written here, starting with the third persons on the top of each chart. So the singular ones are up here, plural ones are down here. Okay, and so these are the ones that would be like our, your, their, or us, you, them. Up here would be my or me, you or your, and his, him, her, or it, and sometimes it's. So that's what we're looking at. All right, now the reason we started with third person at the top is because that's how the verb charts appear in most Hebrew grammars, and so it's nice to match up in the same order the person, gender, number sequences and make them the same with these pronominal suffixes as we see them with verbs. And so that's why we have that here on the chart like this. Before we go into detail about these, let's keep moving through the slides that actually reveal some of the details here. So first of all, you'll notice on the chart that there are 2 types of pronominal suffixes. The type 1 suffixes are going to occur with singular nouns. Okay, so that's these right here. Okay, these will be used with singular nouns. If you're going to put a suffix on a singular noun, right, as like a horse rather than horses, you would use one of these endings, one of these suffixes. Type 2 suffixes occur with plural nouns. Okay, so these on this side, all right, you have a third masculine singular for type 1, third masculine singular for type 2. Both of these would mean his or its, okay? But the only difference would be if it's a plural noun, you would use this one. If it's a singular noun, you would use this one. But in either case, the thing has one owner. If it's a possessive, his, one man's noun, one man's possession, right? So the difference between these two is not a meaning difference, it is a usage difference. And then both types, type 1 and type 2, occur with prepositions. And so when you see these on prepositions, some prepositions prefer type 1, some prepositions prefer type 2, but there's really no difference in meaning. It's just that prepositions vary in their preferences. And then pronominal suffixes have person, gender, and number. In your workbook, you might see PGN. That means person, gender, number. So third masculine singular would be person, gender, number. Notice, though, that the first person suffixes do not have gender, and that's why there's a C there. The C means common. That means it can be masculine or feminine. That's true for both singular and plural first person suffixes. All right, another set of details here. The chart starts with the third person at the top. I mentioned that before. Also note that the singular are up here, the plural are down here. And notice that the type 1 and the type 2 have many spelling similarities. Okay, you see a vav in there, hey in there, hey in there, cough, 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 yod, yod. You've got the hey and the meme, hey, meme, hey, noon, you know, all the way down. There's a lot of similarities from the type 1 to the type 2. One thing that's pretty consistently different is that type 2 will have a yod all the way down. That is consistent. Type 1 only has the yod in the first person common singular. None of the other forms have a yod. So the presence of that yod in nearly every form is an indicator you're looking at a type 2 suffix. You'll just have to memorize the difference between type 1 and type 2 for the first common singular. Okay, and for me it's always been, I don't know, that little dot looks smaller, it looks more singular to me than this line. So that's, I think, how my brain remembers that. So that's a helpful way to distinguish. Just a bigger view of these, since that slide had them all listed so that we're a little bit small. This shows you the spellings of the type 1 and type 2. So over here you see the type 1 suffix attached to the word sus, okay, and you see no yod there, okay. The type 2, you'll have a yod there, okay. And so both of these are communicating that there is more than one owner. Okay, we, or our horse, means we are the owners of the horse, right? Our horse. But in this case, the type 1 suffix communicates it's one horse. The type 2 suffix indicates it is multiple horses. Same thing down here, suschem, all right? So you've got no yod, that's a type 1 suffix, so it's your, and that is a plural your horse. Still one horse, but multiple owners. And then over here we've got the yod, which means the noun is plural, the sus is plural, and it's still the same your suffix, so multiple owners, and now in this case multiple horses. All right, well, as you're looking through, you might see that this third feminine singular kind of looks like a noun ending, a feminine noun ending, but it has the dot in the hey, which is called a mapik. It's not a dagash, that's a mapik. And so that's a helpful little dot to distinguish the feminine noun ending from the third feminine singular pronominal suffix. Now there are a few alternate forms for these type 1 suffixes. So let's look at those alternate forms. Here are those alternate forms. And so these are the type 1 suffixes that have the alternate forms, and here are the alternate forms. Some similarities, still got a vav there. It's actually a shurik now. It's a vav vowel. This is a hole in vav too, so they're both vowels. Here you have hey and kamets. They're just rearranged a little bit. You still have a hirik yod, but this one has a ni in it, or a noon in it, which makes it sound like ni. Here you have hem. So these are very common, and on, very common substitutes for the full type 1 suffix. So be aware of these alternate forms. All right, so when it comes to translating these pronominal suffixes, I've already introduced a little bit to you in the previous slide. But to review again, what I was saying is the noun here is singular. And we know that because it has a type 1 ending, okay? So this is singular your horse. One person, one horse. Okay, these are possessive because they're attached to a noun. When the pronominal suffixes are attached to a noun, they are possessive. All right, down here, now you've got the type 2 suffix. And this type 2 suffix is telling you your noun is now plural. So there's still one you, but there's multiple horses. So you have multiple horses, your horses. All right, so when attached to prepositions, pronominal suffixes are objective, okay? So you're gonna go to that list of objective options for your pronouns. All right, so with a preposition like la, meaning to, you would say to you. Or to you, in this case it's plural in Hebrew. You can tell he's talking to more than one person. Also, when attached to the definite direct object marker, the pronominal suffixes are objective. Okay, so remember eth or eth are the definite direct object marker, and so you will see it like this. You'll just see the ending attached right onto that definite direct object marker. In this case, it's an alternate ending. And this is a way to create the pronoun as a separate word, and this just means him, all right? Or you could just put the ending on the end of a, well, that's actually more appropriate for verbs, which we'll get to later. But if you want to have the separate word for him, you can make it by just attaching the pronominal suffix to the direct object marker. Here we have the masculine nouns with the pronominal suffixes. So we've got on this side the type 1 all the way up and down through here, the type 1 suffixes. On this side we have the type 2. All right, and so what this is saying is because it's type 1, you know it's a singular noun, so there's one horse, and up here is the singular pronouns, pronominal suffixes, so there's one owner. So that's true for all of these. His horse, one man, one horse. Her horse, one woman, one horse. You, in this case, is a singular you, so it's your horse, one person, one horse. So that's true for all of these. Down here, now you get multiple owners of one horse, right? Because the pronouns are all plural. Their horse, feminine, their horse. Your plural horse, okay? Or our horse. So the horse is still singular, even though there are more than one owner here. There's more than one owner. Okay, over here, when you get to the type 2, now you have a plural noun, okay? Type 2 suffixes go with a plural noun. Up here, you still have one owner of the horse, right? His horses, right? So there's more than one horse, but there's still one owner. Okay, so this av ending and this o ending, both are translated his, one person. But the noun that goes with av is a plural noun. So multiple horses, one owner. Okay, that's true for all of these. Down here, you've got the plural pronominal suffixes, so there's multiple people owning multiple horses because it's a type 2, so you've got multiple of the noun, and over here you've got more than one person because it's a plural pronominal suffix. So their horses, your plural horses are our horses. Now you will say, you will see that the sus, which you would normally, as if it's plural, you would think it's susim, but note that the im ending drops when you add a pronominal suffix. So you have to take off that im ending, and so that means the only way you know that this sus is plural is because it's a type 2 ending, and that's true for all masculine nouns. All right, so be careful to note that the difference between the type 1 and type 2 and the first common singular, because the yod won't help you much there because they both have yod. All right, so getting to the feminine nouns. When a feminine singular noun ending in comets hey, as in Torah, receives a pronominal suffix, the hey is replaced by a tau. All right, so Torah becomes Torath before you add the suffix. Right here, you see this was Torah, but now the hey has become a tau. And then after that, you add the suffix. And that's true all the way down. All these feminine singular forms will take a tau. Now, over here in the plural, you're going to see that the oath is there. So the feminine plural doesn't change its form. So all the way down through here, you'll see the oath, all right? And then you'll see type 2 suffixes going with that plural feminine noun. So this one's a little easier to recognize than the masculine plural because it keeps the original form of the feminine plural. And here is just a little more explanation on that. You can see how easy it is to identify that feminine plural because it keeps the full ending and then you add the type 2. So there's really two ways to identify that this is a plural noun, unlike with the masculine, which has only one way to determine since it loses the im ending. The masculine, you're dependent on that type 2 ending to inform you that it's a plural noun. The type 1, again, just that tau replaces the hey, which would normally be there. All right, so there's always going to be some vowel changes, or almost always, when you add suffixes, when you add an extra syllable to the end of the word. But don't be alarmed by these changes. You can take notes here about what kind of changes you see. There's propretonic reduction. Here you end up having two shvas at the beginning of the word, and so the first shva becomes a hirik. Here there's just a spelling change. So there's various things that happen, but don't be alarmed by them. Many of them just follow simple rules. But if you know your vocabulary well and you are just becoming familiar with the standard lexicon and how these patterns work, you won't have any problem figuring out what noun you're looking at. Now, some monosyllabic nouns, like ach, all right, one syllable, they'll add a hirik, a hirik yod, before the pronominal suffix, even in a type 1, right, or especially in a type 1. And so that can be confusing because we've been telling you that the yod is the indicator that you're looking at a type 2 suffix. But here, now you've got a yod in the type 1. So just take note, this is a single syllable or a monosyllabic noun. Sometimes this happens with monosyllabic nouns, but here's what you can take a note of here. The hirik yod is different than any other ending that occurs with the type 2 suffixes. Okay, the yod that occurs with the type 2 suffixes will never be preceded by hirik. You've got komets here, you've got sagol here, you've got patak here, you've got sere here. You never have a hirik before the yod in any of these type 2 suffixes. So if it's a hirik yod, you should quickly think, that's because this is a monosyllabic noun. All right, so moving on to prepositions with pronominal suffixes. When the prepositions take the pronominal suffix, they're objective, as we said before, not possessive. And so they usually function as the object of the preposition, with her or to them. Some take type 1, some take type 2, and you don't really need to worry about why that is because you're not trying to compose Hebrew for this course, you're just trying to recognize what they are. So you don't need to worry about which ones take which type. All right, so here's some examples. Here's with the preposition la and the preposition al. So the preposition, just for your information, la, ba, im, eth rather, these take type 1 suffixes. Al, el, tacheth, achare, these take type 2. So just for your information, and this is what they look like when they've been attached to la or al. All right, now there are some complications that happen with the preposition ka and the preposition min. So in some cases, it's not complicated, right? Like down here in the plural, all but this first common plural, they are just like what you would expect, okay? On both pronoun or both prepositions. But up here, you see in the red, you see that there's basically some extra syllable added here. All right, it's the mo, right? So rather than just a cut like you have down here, we've added the mo in between. So that happens in all of the singular suffixes, and it happens with the first common plural. That's true for both of these prepositions. Okay, so instead of just kahu, you've got kamohu. Instead of just kaha, you've got kamoha. All right, over here in the min, you've got mimenu instead of just menu. Okay, and you've got mimena instead of just mina. All right, so there's an extra syllable there. So DDOM is the definite direct object marker. And so as we mentioned before, with pronominal suffixes, it's just becoming a basic pronoun. So this is the word he remembered, and now this has become the word them. He remembered them. Here are all the forms of what these pronominal suffixes can look like with the definite direct object marker. So you can take note of that. Now, there obviously is a similarity between the direct object marker and the preposition eth, but actually when you add these pronominal suffixes, they never cross over, they never look the same. And the easiest way to learn this and remember it is that the preposition with always has the heuric in it, which is the I sound, just like the I sound in the preposition itself, with. So that's how I remember it. The O sound also in object might help you with the object marker to remember that. Most all of these have the O sound in the object marker except the second plurals, the second masculine plural, second feminine plural, they have a sagol. All right, and then im and really just letting you know that there's nothing surprising about those. Im remains im, and you just add the endings. Remains and you just add the endings. So that's kind of nice. Oh, the one thing is they both add a dagesh forte in the meme when they add an ending. And here's a summary chart that includes all the alternate type 1 suffixes as well. So I hope the lesson's been helpful for you. Have a great day.